again from Stampin' Up. I'm a demonstrator in Basking Ridge, New Jersey, and I go live every Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, to share with you some of the things that I'm working on. And very exciting news today from Stampin' Up is that we have free shipping. So free shipping only happens like once or twice a year. So it's very exciting when it does because, we all like to save money. So free shipping is happening today, which is October, let's check, 22nd through Friday, October 24th. All right. So if there's anything that you're looking for, you want to make sure that you get your orders in. It is a minimum order of $75, but it's worth it because it's a great time to stock up or maybe to grab maybe a few of those things that you've been waiting to get. So take advantage of that. You can shop my online store. The links are in my bio and other, down below. So take a look at that. If you have any questions, let me know. But let's take a look at what we're going to work on today. So here we go. We're going to make this card. And this card is one that I have featured in my Stamp-A-Stack and a couple of other classes that I've done this month. And it uses the Artistic Leaves stamp set. And this is a photopolymer stamp set. And it's not mine. I borrowed it. Thank you again, Lois, my downline who lives nearby. She lets me borrow some of hers because, as always, I can't own everything, right? So we're using the Artistic Leaves stamp set to make this fabulous card in some atypical colors, right? We can also, normally with leaves you use oranges and yellows and greens and, reds, and just to capture that autumn look. But this one uses Pretty Peacock and Lost Lagoon, and so we're gonna make that card. And oh dear, I cased it from another demonstrator, and gosh darn it, I didn't write down her name. So I really do it. I just have to find that. So I'll put it in the notes. Anyway, so Artistic Leaves is the stamp set that we're going to use. But one of the big reasons I wanted to show this card was to show off the stylish shaped dies. Now you may be saying, what the heck, Brenda? These have been around for a long, long time. But I have to tell you, I use them almost every class. Actually, probably every class that I do. They are just perfect for any labels, any focal points, as we are on this card. Our leaf is here. It makes things stand out. I love that it has the stitching, and I wanted to mention it to you in case you were looking to invest in something from Stampin' Up with the sale that's going on that you might use on a regular basis. And I think if you are going to buy anything, if you have anything in your collection, this is your number one die set that you would want. That's just my personal opinion. But as I said, I use them all the time. Again, they're called Stylish Shapes dies, and you can find them in the online store for sure. And I think they're actually also in the catalog. So, because they, like I said, they have been around for quite some time, but they are a staple. So let's go ahead and make our card. So we have our Pretty Peacock card base, and we're going to give that a nice full scoring bone is behind me. We're just going to use my fingernail this time. Then we're going to take a piece of basic white because we like to put that on the inside of our cards when the card stock is a dark color, so that when we go to write our messages, we can actually see them without having to use a gel pen, which you might not have on hand all the time, etc. So there we go. And just a reminder, all the measurements for all my cards are always in the notes below the video, so you can see that. So next up, we're going to work with our designer series paper, and this is called Woven Traditions. And you can see that I've used a different piece than here. There are, I think, 4 different sheets, and there are 3 of each sheet, which is very nice to have. And they're nice and neutral, and they can go with just so many things. So you can see the different designs and the different colors, but they all will work. So let's go ahead and do that. But before we just put it onto the card, we want to add our little strip. Now, we could have used ribbon here. I didn't really have a perfect ribbon to go with this that met all the different colors in case people wanted to use a different side. I'm going to use this side today because I think I've done all the others in the course of my different demonstrations. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting some adhesive at the very top of the back side of the paper. So you can kind of see where it is, just a little bit at the top. And then I'm going to line up my strip, which is 5.5 inches by 1/2 inch. And I just want to make sure that I get about the same. You know, it's not perfect, it's not perfect, but you want to just put that at the top and so that it's behind it, okay? And that just, I think, helps everything flow from one part of the card to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and then now adhere this to the card front. I'm using Stampin' Seal, but I'm using the stronger one, so it's Stampin' Seal Plus. So I'm using even less than I normally do because this stuff is good. This stuff sticks like crazy. So another basic thing that you might want to consider getting with the sale that's going on, okay? So, you know, it's a great time to stock up on basics, things that you know you're going to use. So you can see I have a little edge here. I've been having a little trouble, I think, with my paper cutter and the way that the blade is cutting. I thought maybe I was just making mistakes, but it's gotten to the point where it's pretty consistent. So I think it's time for me to invest in a new paper cutter so that, because I don't know what else to do to try to fix it. So anyway, so I just trim off whatever's extra, which tends to be happening a lot lately. So just goes to show, doesn't have to be perfect. You can always fix it. All right, so now I've taken some basic white cardstock and I die cut it with our stylish shapes dies, and this is the largest circle. So it's right about 3 inches. So in the measurements, you'll see I'll say 3¼ inches because you want to make sure that you don't go off the edge. And this is like exactly 3 inches wide. So anyway, that's why the measurements say that. And now we're going to stamp. Now the thing about the Artistic Leaves stamp set is that it's what we call a 2-step stamping set. So you see that? It says 2 steps. So some of our stamp sets are designed to stamp on top of each other. Now, this looks fabulous when you're using maybe yellow and red, but it still looks good when you're stamping with the blues that are a little closer in color. So this is the way I do it. Now, there is some argument amongst people. Should you stamp the outline first or the inside first? And I tend to stamp the outline first so that I know where to put the inside. That just makes more sense to me, but there are people who argue the opposite, just so that you know. So anyway, I'm taking my pretty peacock ink and I'm going to ink up, tap, 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 not squish, 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 as I often say in my classes. And then we're just going to stamp that down. Okay, so you can see it looks lovely, just like that, but we're going to give it a little dimension, if you will, by adding some Lost Lagoon. Now, Lost Lagoon is kind of close in color, especially this is very dark right now. It is recently re-inked, but it does lighten up the slightest amount, and then Lost Lagoon comes in, and it's also dark, so it's going to look kind of the same, but you'll see as it dries it gets a little different. So this is the inside stamp, if you will. And what I'm going to show you is that you see these 2 pieces, these smallest pieces at the bottom? That's what you're going to use to line up. And that lines up to these white spaces here at the bottom of your leaf. And I'm going to tell you, I had to practice with this several times before I figured out what it was I was aiming for, okay? And that's what it really comes down to, is you're going to aim to keep it within the lines, and you're going to aim to have these 2 line up. So you can see, now I usually have to put my head right over it, and I can't do that because I have a camera here so that you can see, but I think I've got it pretty close. I'm going to lay it down. And then when you take it away, you can see that instead of being white in there, it is now Lost Lagoon. So it's not as stark as it was before. So I thought that that looked great. And again, I did taste this from someone else who had done something very similar. And I just thought it was just nice to have something a little bit different colors for fall, okay? So now I'm going to take a piece of Lost Lagoon cardstock and I'm putting that here to add a layer. And again, this is a sketch, if you will, that you could use anytime where your focal point is off to the left, like we're doing here, and you have the background decorated. And this is where I'm saying your focal point is off to the left. Now I'm going to tip this focal point, which is my leaf, and I'm going to put it on with some dimensionals. Another great thing to stock up on if you're looking for items to add to your order to get to that $75. I don't know about you. I have no problems getting to $75, but you might. And especially if you're close and you don't, you just don't want to go over by that much. They're $4.25, so, and you get 3 sheets of 100 little dimensionals. So anyway, always a good bargain. All right, so there we have it on the card. All right, and now we're going to stamp our sentiment, maybe. It's right here somewhere. So the sentiment we're using is also from the stamp set. It is says "Celebrate Today." You can see that, and I have a strip of white cardstock right here. Here it is. I knew it was here. And, and I'm going to stamp using the Pretty Peacock ink. Okay, so tap, 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 and get that right in the center. Hopefully straight. See how I did there. Okay, pretty good. I'll take it. All right, and then I'm going to take some twine. So this is the Baker's Twine Essentials Pack, and this comes with 5 different colors. Actually, I have 2 of the color that I'm using for this card, which is this one, which is like a taupe. And it usually comes, it has white also in the package. My white is just elsewhere. I use white a lot. And what I'm going to do is, while it's still on the roll, this is how I like to work with twine. I'm going to tie it into a bow. And so here's my bow. Now you don't have to do this in a bow. You could just, because it's going to be going behind the sentiment label, you could choose to just make it, just kind of loop it around itself. And then we're going to trim it off. And what I like to do is to put a little adhesive on the back side of my label. Okay, so even though I'm going to be putting this on with dimensionals, I've got some adhesive right here. Just see this thicker Stampin' Seal. Goes like that. And then I'm just going to place it on, maybe on an angle, making sure that the bow loops and these strings are sticking out. So there we go. So that's what that looks like. And now I can put it on with dimensionals. Now, because this is already popped up, my little trick that I have been doing is to put dimensionals only on the side of the label that's not going to be sitting on top of what's already popped up, because otherwise it makes the card a little lumpy. So you can see I used an edge. See, that's the edge of the Stampin' Dimensionals, because everything, you can use everything. And then for the piece that is going to be on top of the leaf, I'm just going to use regular adhesive for that. So my Stampin' Seal. So you can see, whoops, I don't want to let that get stuck in there. All right, we're going to put this on, and voila. Hopefully you wouldn't have that sticking out at the end, but that's okay. I'll trim that later. And then finally, I'm going to use my streak dots, and the streak dots are part of the Autumn Toile suite that is from Stampin' Up. So again, they're called streak dots because take a look at them. When you look at them up close, they're kind of streaked, right? Hence the name. So I'm going to go ahead and use my scissors, because my Take Your Pick tools. Why do I do this all the time? I know there's one right here, but anyway, you would think I didn't have 6 of them, but I've had a lot of classes lately, so it's kind of hard. So I'm going to make a visual triangle this time. I think I'm actually going to do, I want them a little closer together this time. I'm going to go one here and then a little one up here. So they're a little closer together, and then I'm going to pop one down here. I'm going to use a bigger one. These are going to kind of blend in on this darker paper, but it's still there as something a little fancy. So there you have it. There is a nice autumn card using non-traditional autumn colors and also the stylish shapes dies, which I highly recommend as a basic tool if you're looking for something to get with the free shipping sale, which goes on from today through Friday. Then like I said, I highly recommend that you take a look at that, adding that to your collection. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.